In our last regular episode, we may have played with a blowtorch. And added some new items to our punch list.
Why is it flowing so much? That seacock's off, right?
It's supposed to be.
We were still waiting to get a musical performance from Peter Suarez.
I really, unfortunately, didn't get around to trying to piece this one back together until this afternoon, and it's...
But we did wager $1 on some nautical trivia.
I don't think that a vertical structure like a mast would be considered a spar.
Do you suppose we can wrap this all up today? You never know. I might surprise you. How Not to Sail, sponsored by our awesome Patreon patrons and Latitudes and Attitudes magazine. They ruin my life, so why not let them ruin yours today at latsats.com. Now, before we try to bend together all the disparate, bitter ends of these various storylines into something coherent, I just wanted to remind you that this is pretty much your last chance to become a Patreon patron of How Not to Sail before the boat show and the patron meet and greet, which will be in the Greater St. Pete area on the Thursday of the boat show week. As we get closer to the blessed event, I'll be considering the weather and a couple other factors, and we'll either be doing it within a mile or so of the venue, or possibly in Gulfport, which is just 5 to 7 minutes away. But I'll be sending out the information to our Patreon crew not long before that, including our latest crew members, Dave and Carson. Thank you so much. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. If you want to become a patron before the meetup, just go to hownottosail.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. And you can become a patron for as little as $3 a month. I greatly appreciate it. It helps me set aside time to do this thing, and I am looking forward to seeing you at the as yet undisclosed location. But meanwhile, I'd come down to the marina to see why my zincs kept disappearing so fast, and what the heck might be going on with stray electricity in the water.
Man.
How you doing, man?
I also wanted to get an interview and maybe some music from my friend Peter Suarez. Even though I hadn't quite crossed those items off the punch list yet, somehow I managed to add even more.
You want me to see if I can break these bolts loose?
Sure.
Okay.
I do not recommend using a blowtorch aboard a boat, but in this case it did work out fine and allowed my friend Mike to remove the bolts securing the water pump and one of the engine zincs, which had been particularly stubborn. The complication arose when Mike removed the end of the hose connecting the raw water intake to the engine water pump.
Why is it flowing so much?
It's looking like something, maybe electrolysis, has caused the ball valve to be stuck in the full open position, no matter which way you turn the handle.
That's interesting, Bradford. That seacock's off, right?
It's supposed to be.
This strikes me as a good time for a helpful reminder. How Not to Sail 101. Always bear in mind that it's preferable to keep the ocean outside of the boat. Anything that tends to prevent that condition should be considered undesirable. So here we have the marina water very much coming into the inside of the boat. The only way to stop it, other than attaching the hose back to the engine water pump that we want to take out, is to stick a thumb over the end of the hose, or to raise the hose up higher than the water line. It's kind of hard for me to determine where the water line is from inside the boat, but there's one easy way to find out. Just raise and lower the end of the hose. Once you've moved the end of the hose above the water line, the water stops flowing out of it.
I think what I'm going to do, since I got the torch rig here, is I'm going to get that bolt on the bottom to loosen.
Okay.
And that way, when we get the bolt loosened, we can come back here and figure out what the next game is. How's that sound? Does that sound logical?
Yeah, maybe.
We decide to let Mike go ahead and take the water pump. Make sure that we raise the end of the hose up above the water line and put a plug in it with a clamp around the hose to secure the plug. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I suppose the plug and clamp could fail, the hose could fall over, and we'd flood the boat if the bilge pump stops working. After sending Mike off with the water pump and a very salty engine zinc, I can't help but be a little pessimistic.
Mike's got the water pump with him to rebuild, so the engine is out of commission regardless for a couple of weeks, so the Admiral and I will not be cruising for New Year. We'll see if we can even get her back in action for the boat show.
Tanya and I were thinking about doing our kind of regular New Year's cruise, but that's not going to happen unless Mike is able to get the water pump back in right quick-like. And the boat show's only a couple of weeks after that. But those little issues are nothing compared to my main concern.
I'm scared to work on that ball valve at the engine raw water intake while we're in the water, because if we mess up the through hull that's there below the water line, that could be a problem.
A mistake here, coupled with a failure of the battery-powered bilge pump, might result in not keeping the ocean out of the boat.
So a beverage was had, and now it's time to hit the rack. Yes, hi, I was just calling about a haul out.
The next day, I figure it's time to bite the bullet.
Wow, I didn't know you'd be available that soon.
Fortunately, they have some space for me in their schedule, and it looks like the day after the St. Pete Boat Show.
Yeah, I'm going to need to consult with the Admiral, but I will get back with you very quickly on that.
Haul-outs, aside from costing money, tend to make me a little nervous. But after a string of not successes, at least I finally backed myself into a corner to try and get something constructive done. And just maybe, while I'm on a roll, maybe I can get some music from Mr. Peter Suarez.
We could try it tonight. I did work on it this afternoon for quite a while, actually. I spent some time trying to re-up.
There are a couple of my favorite songs I hope Peter will remember. And after a bit of sushi and an adult beverage, he agrees to bring his guitar over to JC Sales and give him a shot.
Yeah, no, I think it might be considerably slower than the last time we did it.
I can speak from experience when I say it's not uncommon to forget your own songs, especially if you have a couple hundred of them like Peter does. There's one in particular that I very much wanted to get recorded, and it's called All at Sea. One of my favorite things about the song is that it's filled with nautical euphemisms for drinking and drunkenness.
Okay, to push the boat out is to do a service for someone. And so that became synonymous with buying a round of drinks. To throw a fish to captain meant to give a very quick and cursory salute in between seeing the captain and getting back to your task.
And the title of this song?
All at Sea is just kind of an all-encompassing term that has to do with sailing poorly, frequently because the men were entirely wasted on grog.
Well, I tell you what, why don't you bust up into that, and if anybody notices any sailing terms that Peter forgot that he wrote, put them on the voicemail.
Turn to and tow, leave the rigging to ride low. Throw a fish to captain and don't you know it's time to turn to and tow. Give away, trim those sails, leave to steadily the gunwale. All ye boatswain, get ye below, if it be your wish to drink like fish, the rummy grog will surely flow, and we roll at sea, tow, tow, tow. So push the boat out, push the boat out, and splice the main brace with me until this night shall end. We sail 3 sheets to the wind, but when next the moon rise, if we be alive, we'll do it all over again. Tow, 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 tow.
Brings a little tear to your eye, doesn't it?
Surprisingly not a bad rendition, I don't think.
All right.
I'm actually kind of surprised I got through it.
Hopefully, that's the way I always feel about a cruise.
Well, yeah. Yeah, kind of the same, yeah.
But as sketchy as some of my cruises are, so is Peter's recollection of one of my favorite songs in the whole world, and possibly one of the funniest I've ever heard.
So I wrote this very pretty piece of music, and I wanted to find a lyric that would do it justice. So I took as my inspiration 2 men in an Irish prison about to be put to death, because they really weren't very nice men, but they were great friends to each other. So shortly before their time, and prison garb being what it is, one of these men sings this song to the other, this beautiful and touching song. And what could be more touching than an Irish prison?
Yeah, I'm not ready to play this. But I'm glad that you made me relearn it.
So it looks like that's probably a no-go for Peter playing The Prisoner's Lament.
Problem is, it's not like somewhere you can just go,
I try to talk Peter into giving it a shot anyway, and if it doesn't work, well, we can just post the version we already have in the show notes or something.
If you will give me but one chance, I'll surely convince ye that we should be in each other's pants. Mine are too big, you see, yours too small. So give your pants to me, mine will fit ye stomach and all. Just let me wear them before you tear them. In each other's pants you'll see how happy we'll be. So if you will give me but one try, you'll surely convince me that... I got that far.
Uh-huh.
If you will give me but one try. Now it's not a little. Okay, one more time. If you will give me but one try, I'll surely convince ye that you should be the first one to die. We'll take off our pants, you and me, stare in the glass. You'll surely, bit the main line. All right.
I thought you said you were going to do a cappella.
I can.
Oh, snap.
If you will give me but one chance, I'll surely convince ye that we should be in each other's pants. Mine are too big, you see, yours too small. So give your pants to me, mine will fit you stomach and all. Just let me wear them before you tear them. In each other's pants you'll see how happy we'll be. So if you will give me but one try, I'll surely convince ye that you should be the first one to die. We'll take off our pants, you and me, stare in the glass. You'll surely quit this world when you see the size of your bloom, and ask of me anything, friend, here at the end. Just give me the chance to die in your pants. So if you will give me just one chance, I'll surely convince ye that we should be in each other's pants.
I think that might be the close of the podcast. Ah, damn. And I think it is now. That's at least the soundbite at the end.
So we'll put a little link in the show notes to the official version. But meanwhile, there was that business about a wager about what the meaning of spar is.
I don't think that a vertical structure like a mast would be considered a spar.
Apparently, Peter did some homework he's anxious to share with me, but I still feel like he might be missing something important.
We had a discussion. We were talking about spars, yes. And any of your listening audience out there that knows of the movie or any of the books, or the book, Master and Commander, written by Patrick O'Brian, and there's a section that I was reading last night where this particular sailor of that time period is explaining to the doctor every single part. And this will not ever be on your broadcast, I'm sure. I'm just giving this to you, Bradford. And listen to this.
The mainstay goes from just under here and supports the mainmast below us. Perhaps I'd best finish the masts before I go on to the yards.
Okay, but perhaps I best finish the masts before I go on to the yards.
And your point being?
Hang on.
You're confusing yards with spars.
You're exactly right. And that just occurred to me right now.
So, can I have that $1 now?
Oh, absolutely.
All
You
right.
can have more than $1, yeah. Oh, God.
Glad we
I
disposed of
really-
that one.
Yeah. That's probably going to be on the podcast, isn't it?
You never know.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain.
So, Peter did make good on his $1 bet, but we still don't know if Mike will get the water pump back in time for the Admiral and I to take a little New Year's cruise, or even whether it will be ready for the boat show. But I sure hope so, because the day after the boat show, we're scheduled to haul out. What could possibly go wrong? Don't forget to go to hownottosail.com/29 for the show notes to this episode, including the official version of Peter's song, The Prisoner's Lament. Thanks as always to our awesome Patreon patrons, including our newest crew members, Dave and Carson. Don't forget, this is your last chance to join the Patreon crew before the private meetup on Thursday the 20th. You can help keep How Not to Sail afloat for as little as $3 a month at hownotttosail.com/Patreon. And huge thanks as always to our sponsor, Latitudes and Attitudes magazine. They ruin my life, so why not let them ruin yours today at latsats.com. And by the way, if you've already heard all the How Not to Sail episodes, let me tell you about another great podcast by a friend of mine, just in case you haven't heard it. The Shooting the Breeze Sailing Podcast with Captain Jeffrey Weddick. Not because I'm a guest on episode 125 or anything, but because he's always a great listen. It's like sitting across from a good friend at the pub as he talks to a cool guest. And maybe they have a beer or two, metaphorically speaking. Who knows? And I mean, don't you want to have a beer with them? So check out the Shooting the Breeze Sailing Podcast at theescapepods.com. That's theescapepods.com, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And I'll put a link in the show notes for this episode as well. Thanks to Maxie Freeney for mixing this episode and for his patience. You can find him at maxiefreeney.com.
The events and descriptions in this episode represent the editorial viewpoint of this person only and none other. Don't try any of the stupid stuff described here without consulting your psychologist, attorney, and/or a licensed captain.
And I'll see you next time on How Not to Sail. Screwing up is part of cruising. Let me show you how.
So if you will give me just one chance, I'll surely convince ye that we should be in each other's pants.